Meeting to order at 7 o'clock p.m. Jennifer, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Baser.
Here.
Trustee Booden.
Here.
Trustee Christian.
Here.
Trustee Oliver.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Spector Bishop.
Here.
And Trustee Unical.
Here. Great. Moving on to the consent agenda, are there any items from the consent agenda that anyone would like to have removed and moved into new business? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Jennifer, can you please do a roll call?
Trustee Baser.
Yes.
Trustee Booden.
Yes.
Trustee Christian.
Yes.
Trustee Oliver.
Yes.
Trustee Patel.
Yes.
Trustee Spector Bishop.
Yes.
And Trustee Unical.
Yes.
Moving into public comment, we do have a member of the public here. Ben, do you want to say anything this evening?
No, I love library and I'm interested in maybe being a trustee or running to be a trustee at some point. So I just want to learn about how you all operate. So thank you.
Thanks for being here, Ben. Okay, moving into staff reports. Kate?
So as everyone hopefully knows, summer reading started on June 1st, and it has been a hotbed of activity in the library. I even heard that some people have already finished summer reading. I know, putting all of us to shame. And so we have over 500 adults that have already signed up for summer reading and over 2,000 kids. While Stacy is amazing, she is not the only person to have finished. But right now we have had about 80% of the kids check in for at least one level that have signed up so far. We'll see sign-ups all the way through probably like the beginning to middle of July even. And so we are very excited to be planting a seed and reading. I know you're probably wondering, where are our summer reading t-shirts? And they are arriving tomorrow. And so you guys will have them well in hand before the 4th of July parade, and Anna will be reaching out once they arrive so you guys can all come in and get them. We also had my favorite program of every summer, which is the Egg Drop Challenge. This year we had over 40 eggs dropped, and as we saw last year, if you have a parachute, you're going to have a better chance of success. So if you ever need to toss an egg off of the library's roof, please put a parachute on it. I did want to also remind everyone about the 4th of July parade. We won't know our place in the line until probably the week before, but as soon as we do, Linda will share it with me and I'll share it with all of you. Families, children, pets, neighbors are also welcome to walk with us, so if you want to gather additional people, you are more than welcome to. And we have a number of staff that will be walking as well. We will again have our wonderful bubble wands and fun music playing, so it should be a good walk.
Should we come pick up the t-shirts at some point, or?
Anna will contact us when they are ready, which is, we expect tomorrow.
I don't know what time, okay.
Yes. And then Anna will notify everyone. If you need us to bring them to you, let us know. We can do that too. And then I wanted to also give a quick legislative update. So the legislative session ended on May 31st. You may recall that there were several different priorities that the Illinois Library Association had for the year. One was to increase the per capita grant funding for libraries as well as the library systems. While that did pass through the House, it did not go anywhere in the Senate, but we are hopeful that it may be able to move in the next session. There also was a proposed bill for open educational resources for colleges. Obviously not as applicable to us. That unfortunately didn't move at all this session. We had, of course, our ebook bill, which you are all very familiar with, which I've been heavily involved with, and that did pass out of the House 99-0. It went to the Senate. It was not assigned to a committee, but we are working on a advocacy campaign this summer to talk to each senator individually and encourage them to support the bill. Right now, it is sitting in the hands of the Senate General Counsel. And so until they kind of give it the go-ahead, it can't move to a committee. So we're hoping to find out what is holding it up and how we can move it. While that has been happening here, Rhode Island passed a very similar bill, as did Washington, D.C. And so now there have been two more. Minnesota and New Jersey are still in about the same location we are, where they are moving through the legislative process. So we are very hopeful that this will move forward, possibly in the veto session, possibly in the next session. And then last but not least, the fourth priority was trustee training. That did not really go anywhere, but that's something that we're hoping to be working more on starting again this fall. And I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the legislative updates as well as anything else in my report.
Seeing none, we will move into board member reports.
Well, I, last Friday, had the opportunity to stop by the drop-in Mahjong for K to 12. And boy, was that room full. I don't know quite what I expected, but it was fabulous to see all the kids and the volunteers. There were several high school volunteers there helping them. I don't know that I knew that kids and volunteers knew how to play Mahjong. I don't, but maybe it's time I learned. And John and Sarah and Kim were doing a great job, sort of staffing things and keeping things going, so.
It's a big thing now.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
very
I
popular.
was- People kept coming in the door, even,
We have people that come and just pull up a table. There's a group that now sits right outside of admin a couple days a week and plays all morning.
yeah, I was,
Yeah.
there were some youngish kids in there.
Well, now that you're retired.
Is there a Mahjong kit? Is that one of the things you can check out from the Library of Things, a Mahjong set? Do they have sets?
Oh, that's a really good shot. That's a really good idea. I'm going to share this with our, I don't believe so. I feel like that maybe we could add to our board game collection,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, I know it's not a board game, but it's
It's a game.
a game.
I had the opportunity to attend the Seed film last Wednesday with my daughter, and we really enjoyed it. So that was pretty well attended and really informative, so,
Awesome.
yeah, it was good. And right on theme.
Yeah.
I checked out the buckthorn and invasive plant removal tool available in the Library of Things at the suggestion of Linda on a Northbrook Moms post on Facebook. It worked incredibly well. I regret to tell you that I was not allowed to use it because my husband decided he was in charge because he also liked using it. So we are back on the wait list to get it again. And we love a library where you can get the tools to do your chores. So that is a great asset. I think there's two in the Library of Things. So it was easy to use, helpful videos, a QR code right on the tag you can scan to learn how to use it. And maybe next time I'll be allowed to touch it other than picking it up and checking it out.
First removing buckthorn, next shelving books.
I don't think you'll ever let me do that. Someday though. Any other board member reports?
I just wanted to get like quick feedback on the new format for the summer reading for the youth. And it has been worked out really well for my daughter as far as like, not like the 30 minutes I think was maybe a little not like a holdback, but it was like, well, did you read for 30 minutes? But now it's like, if she reads for 20, she can still cross out the day. And I just think that's taken like some of like maybe the pressure is the right word, but
The
just sort of
weight.
just sort of like the rigidity of it off of it. And so that's been really enjoyable. I know that they revamped that this year, and
Yeah.
we've been enjoying it in our household.
Oh, thanks so much for that feedback, Bryce. I'll be sure to share that with our youth services staff and summer reading committee, because I know they thought for a very long time, and I know Kelly was on that committee, and it was a source of much discussion.
Yes. So glad to hear it's working for your family. That's great.
Yeah, because the whole goal is to get everyone, kids and adults, to form reading habits, right? So that's fabulous.
I formed a reading habit and read 5 books in the first 16 weeks.
Wow.
Okay, moving on.
You win.
I know, Stacy definitely wins.
I think I was in the middle of a book when it started, to be fair, but like.
That still counts.
I know, I counted it. I just. I also don't, anyway, okay. Moving on to unfinished business, master plan project update and cost estimate discussion featuring Kate and Anna.
Yes, so as you saw in the packet, Anna and I worked with Pepper Construction and our architects. I keep thinking Anna's going to be over there because everyone is in different spots. And so I'm like, Anna's over there. Okay.
I know.
Hey, Anna. Jennifer's trying to keep us on our toes. I appreciate that. And so we worked, when we first met with Tiffany and Dan and Joe from Pepper, they mentioned that construction costs had been increasing over the last few years and recommended we move forward with getting some cost estimates sooner rather than later, just so that if we did need to pivot and make changes, we could. So we had not really looked at, and like the plans that you're seeing in there are now not things that we are actively looking at, but the substance of them and the amount of work that's going to be done is going to be about the same. As you saw from the 3 different quotes, they all are pretty close to each other in terms of the overall cost, which is significantly higher than what we were anticipating. A couple things that did drive up the cost. One is, as we discussed, moving the staircase. That is adding on about $1 million. Also, if we move the elevators to be like next to each other or in different spots to help with the rest of the layout, that is going to be like $1.5 million. And so if we make those changes to help with the flow and the experience from the lobby to the 3rd floor, that did add a fair amount of money to it. So one of the things that we wanted to find out from the board is what direction you would like us to go in. We are, we obviously want to be mindful of the money that is being spent. We also know that we haven't done a full-scale renovation since 1999, and we want to set the library up for success long-term. So I outlined, well, Anna and I put this together, outlined some different options that we could consider. We have $9 million that we can put towards it in our capital improvement fund. Every year we allocate $425,000. We also add additional funds if we have unspent money at the end of the year. Now, we're not going to have enough unspent money to make it to 30 million. So we were always planning to issue a bond for a few million. We were thinking it was probably going to be about 4 million. We can, of course, increase the bond issuance. As a village library, we do not have the ability to levy our own money, nor to issue debt on our own behalf. We have to do that through the village. That has always been done with them in the past. It is based on their bond rating. We use their bond counsel. They usually attach it to other bonds that they are already taking out, and then it's split. If you have questions, Anna can go into more detail on that if anyone would like to understand that a little bit more. We can, of course, also scale back the project. One of the things that we did ask them to do, as we had talked about, was we didn't want to move out of the building to do this work. The plan was to do it in 2 phases so that we could shift people from different floors so we could stay here in the building. However, doing it in phases does add additional costs. We could save anywhere from 1 to 2 million, they estimated, if we did everything in one fell swoop. I have not investigated whether that, what the cost would be if we did need to move to like a remote location. If that's something the board would like me to investigate, of course we can then do that. The other thing is we can look at reducing the scope of the project and what we are wanting to do. Now, the last piece of this is grant funding. So the state library has grant funding for public construction projects. I will tell you there's a lot of need out there. They don't fund it every year. This is, of course, something that we can apply for, and we may get. It is usually need-based, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try for that. There are also, as I laid out in the memo, some other grant opportunities, and I did I would say a medium-level dive into different grants, but I can certainly do a deeper dive if that is the route the board would like us to spend more time on. So those are the kind of different ideas that Anna and I had, and I'm going to stop talking to see what questions people have.
Before we move into discussion, or as we move into discussion, I know that the board packet included drawings and renderings of possible renovations. Those are already outdated, is my understanding.
Correct.
So we're not looking at those specifically. As we talk about scaling back the project, we're not looking at those to say, well, we could move this and we could change this. Those are sort of moot at this point. They were reference points. So I just don't want to get in the weeds on like, what if we move the collection this direction 6 inches and save $4? I also floated the idea of a bake sale and Kate told me no, so that's off the table.
Just there's,
I was good. I was just gonna say, I don't know.
can your mom fund our project with her baking?
Yeah.
She'd have to stop
mean,
giving it
that's
away to
actually-
everybody.
Yes.
She would have to start charging people.
Yeah, anybody who shows up at her condo gets free baked goods, so she'd have to stop. I left with 3
There,
months.
there would be a payment we would all have to incur. Warning you.
Okay, anyway, so wanted to make that point. Now opening it up for questions and discussion.
So I have a couple of broad questions to start, because we can go in a lot of different directions here, I'm sure we may. The $10 million in the capital improvement fund, from your and Anna's perspective and experience, you said about 400K is pushed into that every year, correct?
As part of our budget.
So is this the highest it's ever been? We've also been doing pretty good with interest rates and stuff like that. Is 10 million as high as you've seen it since you've been here?
Since I've been here, yes. I'm not sure Anna has been here longer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we would partner with the village to do a bond potentially if we needed to go that route?
Correct. So Anna maybe can talk to the 2015 project.
I mean, we have to partner with the village.
Okay.
They have to issue the debt, just like they
Yep.
do our levy, they have to issue the debt on our behalf.
Because they have the rating and the scale?
No,
because
because
of the
we're a
type-
village library.
Oh, I see.
We don't, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have the ability to issue our own levy or issue our own debt.
Yep.
So we would have to work with them. And in the past, when we've done it, we would just ask, and it was a very easy process.
Do you foresee this being an easy process this time around as well?
I have not spoken to them. I mean, I don't know, with all the projects they have going on, like, we might have to work around some of their projects, but maybe we wouldn't have to take all the money out at once. Maybe we could take it out, in 2 different kind of increments. I have not spoken to them yet.
Okay.
I spoke with Kara and she did not go like, oh my gosh, or no,
Yeah.
this isn't possible. She was going to talk with Steve Drosner, their CFO, but they of course have the fire and police stations that they're doing, which could make this easier because then this could be added on. They're issuing debt pretty much every year, and so we would always just kind of be like,
Yeah,
and
they
usually
would.
it's in the fall, and so one of the things that we could look at is saying like, okay, we have the 10 million to start, we could bid it, we could do, because the project is likely going to take a year, right? And so we could do, issue debt 1 year for, 15 million, and then that'll get us through most of the project, and then issue more debt the next year to kind of space it out. That's something that I think Kara and Steve will talk about, because they'll obviously know their finances best, about what kind of timing that needs to look like. I shared with her our timeline of what we have planned currently, and she's like, oh, okay, that sounds okay. So I don't have more information yet, but we'll see. And we will do our best to work with them to make sure that we do what we need to do, whatever the board decides.
I think the question is, do we want to do this grand? Do we need to do it? Is it something that the timeliness is right? Is it, I don't know. I think the big question is, do we want to go that grand, or do we want to start with the essentials? I think that's the first question. is how big do we want to do this? And moving out of the library is a really big deal if we go that route. And I think that's, before we talk about bonds, I think we need to know, where are we on the plan?
Was Pepper Construction surprised by the numbers? I know they're sort of putting them together, but were they? No, okay.
No. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think so.
it didn't seem like it.
Okay.
I mean, they had kind of warned us ahead of time, like construction costs have been going up. I reached out to several of my colleagues who are doing construction projects right now. Every single person I talked to, their estimates, many of them had estimates that were a couple years old, came back significantly higher. So I trust that Pepper has given us a very accurate estimate that it's not going to come in at like 40 million.
Yeah.
That this is probably as accurate as you can get without having like the, how many chairs, how many tables,
Right.
how many walls are we building? But it does seem like this is across the board, people are seeing
Yeah.
significant increase.
You mentioned the last time, things like the elevator and the staircase, those could be significant
Yep.
costs, so that part's not surprising.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there's gotta be some balance of fiscal responsibility,
Yeah.
right, with those types of topics, and then what Barbara raised as far as what are sort of the must-haves, right? We've always talked about a better children's area, and
Right.
just some of the things that we need to evolve, what we can't do without those types of changes, moving the
Yeah.
staircase. At the same time, everyone knows that moving strollers up the stairs would be ideal if we had bigger elevators and stuff, but
Yeah.
Barbara, I'm sorry, to address your questions, like, the HVAC and the plumbing, like, those items weren't really moved even in the 1999 project. I think they kind of worked around those. I mean, I wasn't here, but just from my knowledge of the building, I do believe they worked around all of that mechanical equipment. And what product architecture and Pepper is proposing is that we kind of change everything to give us the ability to really make the best use of the space. And if we didn't do that, we're going to be working around where we have ducts right now, and it's going to make for, I don't think, for the most efficient use of space.
And it isn't going to help us fix some of the acoustical issues that people have raised. I think that's one of the other things, the temperature and acoustic stuff, a lot of this, like, yes, we could repaint stuff, we could put new carpeting, but a lot of it is building systems work, and that is always going to be the less glamorous. Like the 2015 remodel, I think, is a good example of, like, as they started on the project, they discovered the need for additional HVAC work. It added $1 million to the project. It was kind of like, that's why you can't see the admin door now, because they had to build it out from there. It was like, well, this is the only spot we can put it without doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I think the question is, do we do the building system stuff, which is going to be expensive, but which the community isn't going to really get a visible benefit of? It's going to create more efficiencies. It's going to help with, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, electricity, but it isn't necessarily going to be the, like, oh, look at all the cute new shelves in the children's department.
I think about this in terms of the longevity of the building and sustainability of the building, not in like the green eco-sustainability, but I worry about, by not addressing some of the building systems issues, we're punting what was punted in 1999 and then in 2015 to another board to deal with at some point in the future, and it will be even more expensive for that board. From a design perspective, I also am cognizant of the libraries that we visited where it was very obvious that designs were done in phases, and so it felt dated in some areas. And you could tell, like, you were walking from one area that had been renovated into an area that had been renovated 10 years earlier. I know it's expensive, and I think this is going to require a lot of communication with people in the community about priorities, and it's maybe good Linda's not here, because I think I would stress her out with this. But we have an opportunity to do right by the community in a couple of ways. And I have a hard time picturing a world in which we don't do the right thing for the community and for the future of the community. I also don't know how to scale this back because everything's so related. Like, how do you do the children's section without also addressing the noise bleed with the study rooms that are right there? And how do you move things around? Like, how do you create better seating areas without also having to address that collections need to move away from the windows? So.
And I agree with what you just said, Stacy, and it is an incomplete conversation for us to only talk about the expense and not the economic impact that the library has on the community and the return on investment for the number of small businesses that operate out of the library, for the number of social activities that the library offers for free that would cost community members dollars elsewhere. For comparable communities, there's about a $3 or $4 return on investment for every dollar that's invested into the library. So if we only have a conversation about expense, we are only talking about half of the ledger. And when we're talking about the kind of investment that we're proposing here, we need to think about it in terms of both the expense, but also the revenue that investment drives.
I have a question. Obviously, we take out bonds. How does this compare? Like when we, I know they differ in size, of course, but I know that Kate and I talked about how this was bigger than usual. I just wondered, in the past, what is an average?
I mean, we've never taken, I don't know what they took out in 1999. I do think they went out to referendum then, or no?
In 90,
I don't know what they took out in 99.
what they did in 99,
I mean,
but
I
yeah.
know that, we've been paying down the debt for all that time. I could go back and get those numbers. We didn't take out, in 2015, we didn't have to take out that much. So
What's the payback horizon generally? I'm not a
Typically
expert on
20
all
years.
this. 20 years.
yeah. And with opportunities to,
and they'll refinance,
Refinance.
and, I mean, the bond council really works through all of that.
yeah.
I feel like we have been, because of COVID and things that have been beyond our control, we have been putting this off and putting this off. So we knew it was going to get more expensive. It's more expensive than we imagined, than we predicted, but again, it's not really in anyone's control right now. And I think that it's already a pretty complicated project and that we are hoping to stay in the building. And I think further complicating it by saying that we're going to do this but not do that is going to make things, we're not going to save as much. I think, if we do less work, it's not necessarily, if we do half the work, it's not going to be half as much money. So I think that there is something to be said about doing more of it now and having it cost, in the grand scheme of things, sort of, it is the more economic way to do it. I think it's one thing to consider, and I absolutely agree with what Stacy and Adam said about, that we really have to think about sort of very long-term what this is going to mean and the value it's going to have for the community, because I think it does, especially after seeing other community spaces and everything. Ours does look very dated. It doesn't reflect the quality of the staff and the programs.
This is translate to the taxpayer. What is that?
We have not done those calculations, Barbara.
No, but kind of a general, what does it?
Like, what is paying back the bond?
I have,
look like?
I mean, I haven't looked at it. I cannot give an answer to that.
I'm curious about that too, maybe just because I'm also just not familiar with the bond process. I haven't been through it, so I just would, I think it's helpful to understand I get that there's a 20-year payback horizon, in our current budget, can we pay that? I presume that's something we would have to do, right? In our budget, we'd have a certain amount that we would pay back to that.
It's the debt service
And
fund.
that's a service fund,
And so
exactly.
that is, the dollar amounts are created in the bond process.
Okay.
How the village has always set it up for us in the past is that if they've refinanced bonds, they've always kind of made it so that that debt service number was kind of always the same when they would push or refinance funds and push it down. Obviously, this would increase it, right? But I think I don't, I would have to work with Steve to try to figure that out.
I think that's fine, maybe you could look into that.
Yeah, I think it would be
So-
important to know the impact on the taxpayer.
This is very, very, very rough math. As we know, District 28 last year passed their referendum to issue $94.9 million in bond. So it would cost the owner of a home valued at $500,000 an estimated $685 per year. So I think it would be fair to say that if you cut that in thirds, it would be about an additional $200 to $250 per year.
Except that 28 is a much smaller area than all of Northbrook.
And I think.
So
That's a
it would
good
be
point.
even less than that.
It would be even less than
Yeah.
that.
And I
Thank
think
you.
that the
Mathing.
school pays a higher percentage than the library does.
But that's a good way to try to gauge what the impact is. Like, we've all seen through that little dollar bill.
Yeah, and
then what
because we're
percentage
only
is
like
library.
4% of the
Right.
tax bill.
Yeah.
And then to your point earlier about some of the different things we can attempt in parallel with a bond, it doesn't sound like grants are going to get you very far. You already have $10 million in the capital improvement fund, you're a well-funded community, yada, yada, yada,
Yeah.
what are you going to get?
I mean, we do think from a sustainability perspective that there's some good grants that we can definitely go for there, which we were going to do.
Sure.
But yeah.
But there's something, you don't want to take up too much time, but there is something to be said about looking at some of those examples, back to the staircase, the grants, the 3 or 4 things that you rattled off of.
Yeah, yeah,
That
the
way we can
staircase,
at
the
least see if
elevator.
there are anything in parallel that we can also do, because it'd be our responsibility to try to do that while also going for a bond that we know we're gonna need, it appears. And the last thing that I was thinking about with Pepper Construction, as much as we like them and have worked with them, for some portions of this, is it plausible, like moving the HVAC and some of those kind of nitty-gritty things that are less perceivable, to go to another source to also get their opinion?
Oh, we can
On
certainly,
portions, I'm not trying to suggest the whole aspect.
like
of
getting
it,
a cost
but-
estimate from someone
because
else.
There's some things that are very complicated, you need experts.
Yeah.
None of
Well,
them are sitting in this
Wait,
room.
I don't understand what you're asking, Nimesh. Like,
There's aspects.
it's
that
not
are-
Pepper who's gonna decide where everything gets moved. That's gonna be the mechanical engineers that are hired by product architecture.
Okay, so.
And so Pepper is just going to bid out the work
Labor.
to the contractors.
So Pepper's the general?
Pepper is just the general. Product architecture is going to be working with the mechanical engineer, and the mechanical engineer is gonna come up with the plan, and all Pepper does is bid the work out.
And then the contractors,
Yeah,
the
all the various
subcontractors,
ones.
right, they'll.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
So
then
you're
Pepper
acting
is-
as the agent,
yes,
basically.
Right.
Are you
Okay.
asking though, Nimesh, for us to get like an alternative
No.
cost estimate?
No, this was helpful, what Anna
Oh, okay,
described, and
okay.
more as well, because Pepper's doing that work essentially
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ensure that the subcontractors
Correct.
are competing
Yeah, they're
on that
Yes.
portion. and then they're
Operating
doing
as
that.
our construction manager.
Right, yeah, my apologies.
No, no.
Yep, no apologies.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
I didn't.
This stuff is complicated.
And because it's complicated, I'm asking questions. So
Good,
we
yeah.
got 10. So any debt we incurred or bond that we would would go for would not be 30.
No,
So it would be,
right.
yeah.
Yes, it would be 20 or less, right? And the 30 is obviously still the estimate as we move further into design. There may be things like we talked about with we might decide, you know what, we're not going to move the staircase. It isn't going to be enough of a benefit for us. Like, there are definitely
I've
still.
often thought if you could just close the backs.
Right, and they are proposing, product architecture is proposing options that show that, like
Yeah.
leaving the elevators where they're at and just kind of
Working around
reworking
it.
the staircase. And, you know, that, when we look at the options, we can say, okay, this is what we want to do because it's going to save X amount of dollars.
Is this estimate including things like what about like the furnishing, the shelving, all
Yes.
of this?
Yes, it includes
Yes.
everything,
Okay.
soup to nuts.
And a contingency, as I saw.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, a sizable contingency, because it used to be the average, like, contingency would be like 4 or 5%, but we found that 10% is the better option to go with, just to make sure. Because we are in a building that is aging. Well, surprises. Yeah.
There's a similar experience to share in terms of healthcare, and there's about $4 billion of deferred maintenance across our healthcare system. And every time a hospital decides to not do that work, it gets it one step closer to a catastrophic event where
Yeah.
an OR is shut down for a month. Your emergency department is shut down and you have to divert out to other hospitals. Choosing not to spend the money now is making a choice to spend more money later.
Yeah.
And I have a question in terms of the bond issuing. Will that need to go up for a referendum similar to what happened with District 28?
In the past, we have not had to go out for a referendum. The village has just issued the bond, which they are legally allowed to do as a unit of local government with home rule authority. So we have not had to do that in the past.
What do you anticipate for this one, given the size?
We have not had to issue one in the past.
Gotcha.
So, but ultimately, we do not have the authority to levy or issue bond on our own behalf, so that does mean that the village ultimately is responsible for determining
Yep.
how this would move forward.
And for what it's worth, just to reiterate, I do think as we go on the tour, you can see like all sort of the problems that arose because of like the ad hoc, renovations, and that's sort of how we got to where we are today. So obviously we understand, like, I just need to understand a little more about the bond process, like what's the impact per taxpayer, and that's working with Kara and the village on that. But I do think we're doing the community a great service if we can create a cohesive plan that will take them past the 20 years that it takes to pay it all back.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there's an interesting thing with bond issuance. The schools have this interesting statute that allows them, I forget what the year was, it was whenever this law went into effect, where whatever bond money they had taken out at that time, they could continue to reissue it. Libraries don't have anything like that, and so we don't have any kind of ready income. Like, Anna has incredible foresight and has done an amazing job with our budget, putting money aside every year for capital improvement needs, for the aging infrastructure. I think the fact that we even have the 10 million is very much a testament to her skill and thoughtfulness. And I also think that libraries have typically had a harder time getting people to fund them, because people are like, but just keep making it work. So I really just appreciate that all of you recognize that, this physical asset that we have is our largest physical asset and is really important to the community, and to keep it maintained. And as Adam said, like, not kick the bucket down the road with deferred maintenance. Usually kick the can. Kicking the bucket is something different.
That escalated quickly.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Please, Adam, don't kick anything.
Nobody
Don't kick
kicked
the bucket.
anything.
Just don't kick.
Everybody keep your feet to yourself.
There you go. My bad.
Okay. So it sounds like people are generally in agreement about pursuing the bond process, starting that conversation with Kara and Steve, maybe continuing to report back on what
Yes.
that will look like, especially if it needs to go to referendum, which obviously we would be involved in that discussion. But Kate and I also talked about the grant situation, and it sounds like people are in agreement too, that as grants become available that fit the project, pursue them, don't leave money on the table and make decisions for grant issuing bodies. Recognizing that many are need-based, we also know that sometimes grants go unclaimed because people don't apply for them, and it would be silly to not apply, so. And then that's like getting a scholarship. You should just, don't factor it into the budget, but
when you get it, be
when
happy
you
about
get
it.
be happy.
Yeah. Am I also understanding that, so when we bring the plan designs, which will be very broad, right? They're not going to have a ton of detail yet, that the board would like to see some specific call outs for those areas that will be perhaps more expensive, like the elevators and the staircases. And we can work with Tiffany and Dan to identify if there are other design decisions which could, like, if we chose this, it would reduce it by, another
I would
million.
love to see that, sort of an
Yeah.
A/B.
Yeah.
Not for every
No, yep. mhm.
aspect, but on things that have a very big cost associated with them.
Okay, great. We will make sure that when Tiffany and Dan present, we give that.
And if it is helpful for you to start conversations about what it would look like for staff to need to move out of the building to get cost estimate, feel free to do that.
Okay.
If you don't want to do that, or that's not the vibe yet, that's fine.
I mean, I think if knowing that we could, like, the way I look at it is if, say, for instance, we were able to do it in one fell swoop, and that meant doing construction in 9 months instead of 18, and that moving us into another location for 9 months would save us $2 million, and it would cost us $250,000, then that certainly seems, but I have literally no clue how much it would cost us to move things, so I will start looking into that more.
Whoever might have someone they could put you in contact with that would be able to give you like ballpark numbers.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I would think they would.
And Indian Trails, which is similarly sized to us, did a similar, huge
Yeah.
remodel, and they moved to a separate location. So I'm gonna text
Yeah.
my friend Brian and be like, what was the estimate? Just give me
Yeah.
an estimate, and then I think Pepper can give us more
Yeah.
realistic. So yeah, we'll have more fun
And again,
stuff
it's
to
sort
talk
of what
about.
the cost is to the community as well to sort of.
Yeah.
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 Anything else on this? Moving into new business, we are going to talk about the IPLAR, also known as you're so excited,
I
the
am
Illinois
so
Public Library
excited.
Annual Report.
So this is the first year that we have had the data dashboard numbers to use to do the IPLAR. So it was really easy peasy. And I wanted to just point out a couple things. I know that there's a lot of information in here. But collecting the data more efficiently, we did see, I think, some areas where we're like, oh, that's a pretty big difference from the year before. And I think that goes to show just how much having good data collection methods is helping, because we have a much stronger sense of like, yes, we can trust these numbers than previously when there was a lot of manual entry. We're continuing to see a lot of people come in the building. So we were up 5% from the year before and had 319,000 people come in, which I think you could probably tell anytime you come in that we are pretty busy. In terms of expenditures, I did want to call out that we are seeing increases in the staff benefit expenditures, as we will next year. Benefit costs nationally, as you all know, because we've talked about this a lot, have increased. So we had a 9% increase in benefits from the year before, while our headcount remains the same. Programming saw a 20% increase in in-person programming, and because we're doing a better job collecting it, a 29% increase in passive programming. So that includes things like our art shows with the Arts Commission, the craft table in youth services, the make and take bags that we give away at different times of the year. Between our active and passive programming, we had almost 82,000 participants for those, which is great. We did see a a pretty big dip in interest in recorded virtual content, which we don't do a ton of, but the number of attendees for just the 7 that we did dropped 28%, which I think is an indication we're seeing more people come into the building, we're seeing less interest in the virtual. We're still going to continue offering hybrid, but these are the types of things, when we do these kinds of reports, it allows us to look at the trends and say, like, what is shifting and what does that mean in terms of shifting our services? We saw a 2% increase in overall cardholders. We also now, through CCS, have a CCS-wide data dashboard that they've developed, and we have a 91% household cardholder rate, which is amazing and is higher than any other library in CCS. And so you can tell that not only are people getting cards, but from our numbers, you can tell that they're really actively using the library, which is wonderful. I also wanted to call out a very small subset. So a few years ago, legislation was passed for disabled veterans who lived in unincorporated areas to receive cards free of charge. And we had like 1 or 2 the first couple years, and this past year we issued 8 cards to disabled veterans. That I think is really cool, that's a service that they can access now thanks to that legislation. Collections obviously are critically important to what we do. We increased our spending by 4% this year. It was pretty evenly split between physical and digital content. Our physical collection sizes are shrinking a little bit, with the exception of our other items. And this includes things like our kits, our puzzles, everything in Library of Things, our soon-to-be Mahjong kit. And so our physical collection now is just over 220,000 physical items in the building. We are also seeing a dip in physical checkouts. It wasn't like we're talking anywhere 2 to 4%, but we did see a 10% dip in the number of movies that are being checked out. And interestingly, we saw a small dip in ebook usage. It dropped by about 3%, but what went up was audiobooks, which increased by 12%. And so those continue to climb and climb and climb and have for the last 5 years. Also, interestingly, e-video has been something of kind of like a super user type service, and we saw an 8% increase in the number of e-videos that were checked out through Canopy and Hoopla. And I think that goes is just showing that people are looking for other sources to consume digital content and are turning to the library. So I think we'll continue to see those rise. And for the first time that I can recall, since I have been here, we borrowed more than we sent out in terms of interlibrary loan. Not by a lot. It was only by a little, but that was interesting. That I think what we're seeing is our patrons are, other libraries are reporting sharper drops in like checkout numbers, and I think our patrons are still very active, and so when they're placing more holds, which in turn drives more items here. So that I thought was really interesting. Patron services, we're continuing to see an increase in our physical computer usage, so people coming in to use our desktop computers. We saw a 4% increase, so people are always like, do you really need those? We really do. People come in and use them all the time, along with our typewriter, although we don't collect stats on that. But we did see a huge increase in 16% in wireless sessions, kind of like what Adam was talking about. We do have a significant number of people that come and work here at the library, either part of the time or like I have some patrons that we see come in and I think work their entire shifts. They're 40 hours a week here, which is amazing and awesome. So we're continuing to see that increase in wireless sessions. And then last but not least, last year staff did over 2,500 hours of training. We look for training that is free and affordable. We do send staff to conferences. They do a lot of online as well as in-person stuff. So it averaged out to $29 an hour for training. And next year, we get to have the fun time of tracking trustee training as well, which is a new question on the IPLAR. So, which they didn't tell us about in advance. That's one of the fun things. IPLAR will be like, you have to give us this number. I'm like, you didn't tell us we were going to need it. And they're like, oh, we do. Okay. So they'll get it next year. And
We can add that to the data dashboard so that the public can see
Do
trustee
you-
training hours.
would you like us to?
I would love to.
Okay.
I want the community to know how hard we work and learn to support what we do here.
And your own personal stats on summer reading.
No.
Oh,
The
wow.
community doesn't need to know that. I also sometimes regret logging a book because I'm like, someone can see that I read that.
I'm not going to lie. I do think about which books I log for summer reading.
You're censoring yourself.
I am. I know. It's bad. Well, because, like, I do read some stuff that's really, like,
Wait, but they're not like really closely looking at that, right? Because I
No.
definitely, okay.
no.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Everything's
I should rethink
public,
my
Bryce.
list of what I write
Everything's
down.
Yeah, no one is looking at it. But you can.
Wait until the 2027 election when we release your reading.
People can choose to share reviews publicly if you like, but no, we do not.
On the trustee training, do you have to like report that, or how does that work? Like you just see it through the
Yeah,
portals, or how
I
does
was
that work?
actually, Jennifer doesn't know this yet, but we were going to talk tomorrow. I was thinking that when Jennifer each month asks for the, if anyone has anything for the board packet, that we can add in, did anyone attend any training in the last month, and we'll just log it. So stack it onto something else so that we don't have to create a new system. So that was my,
Sounds good.
This is probably too in the weeds for something you just learned. You're going to have to ask, do they define training?
no.
Great.
But they did tell another director that reviewing, serving our public, and talking about the state standards doesn't count as training.
Okay.
We're going to define it the same way we do for staff, and they can come for us.
So I had,
Yeah.
I think you answered it, but as I was looking through here, looking at particularly programs and attendance, I think it's on page 97, I did notice these enormous swings.
Yes.
From last year, both up and down.
Yes.
And I thought, that's huge. I mean, like, what happened
happened?
here? You know, I was looking at attendance at synchronous programs for children aged 6 to 11. Went from 827 to 4,306.
So part of this has to do with the fact that we are now, we're downloading a report, we are putting it into Excel. Excel is, we're using formulas to extract and subdivide instead of having people manually count things.
As I said, I thought, I think you answered my question.
Yep.
But I did notice this, and I was thinking,
There's significant, and there are some categories where we think things were possibly counted twice or not at all. And so now we know everything is counted. We know everything, what category it's in, making sure it's in the right category. And so next year, we shouldn't be seeing these.
jumps. And then
Yeah.
I kind of wondered, I'm sure it's in here, but I did wonder, I was looking at the dashboard and I thought, I'm curious, do you track how many people use the collaboratory?
We do. Those are tracked collaboratory
Yeah.
in our one-on-one appointments.
One-on-one appointments, okay. I knew
Yes.
it was probably,
And
and I
that-
knew it's probably here.
And yes,
but I
and
didn't
so
know what-
the one-on-one appointments, we track two different methods. We have our reference one-on-one appointments, which are usually technology-based or reference research genealogy. And then we have our one-on-one appointments in the collaboratory. Now, those are not the same as our program. So any program offered that you register for in the collaboratory is counted with the program stuff by the age group. But the one-on-ones includes reference and maker services.
It only counts collaboratory one-on-one help that's 15 minutes or more.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Kelly. Yeah, that's a
So
good.
It doesn't reflect every single person that goes into the collaboratory. If they don't need
Yeah.
help, they may not be counted.
Yeah.
We've done more intermittent counting where staff are manually tallying when folks are coming in and out, but we don't track that throughout the year. It's only 15-minute or more interactions.
But when I look at one-on-one, I can't really differentiate, like, between.
No, but if you like, I can get you that
I'm
number.
just curious.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
sure.
How is that
I
going?
mean, Kelly,
Is
to
it
the
different
extent
than
that
last
you've
year?
installed
Yeah.
the new cameras, can you?
I wouldn't-
People count some
It
of
was
the different?
less
Yeah.
carefully tracked the year before.
We don't, but
So
we
I would
can,
start
yeah.
with this year and
We were
then.
talking about it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, more businesses are using that more for sort of an
Yep.
OT standpoint. So simple, binary, it just allows you to understand how the building's being utilized. It can add a lot of value from that standpoint, because that's the data that drives, even for us, thinking about the architectural layout. How many people are just walking through the collaboratory, not just like peeking in and say, oh, that's cool, but that gives you a good gauge of dwell time, and all that type of stuff. So
Yes.
it's something to consider, to Janet's point as well. You've got the tools and technology now to consider.
Exactly. Kathleen Doyle, our Maker Services Manager, and I were just talking about this because one of our strategic plan activities is to assess the hours of the collaboratory and determine what the community wants in terms of their open hours. And one of the things we were talking about was using the new camera system to get a count and do some heat maps of when they're busiest, so.
Yeah, awesome. Another question, I like the stats that you were throwing out there. Back to sort of, we've been talking about ebooks a lot and the
Yeah.
costs and stuff like that. And then you
Yeah.
mentioned e-audio was growing 4% more or 12%?
12% more.
Do you think that is attributable to sometimes not having titles or enough copies of ebooks, so people are just migrating because they're available on e-audio or not necessarily?
Oh, I doubt. Well, I should say, this is pure anecdotal,
Yeah.
but people typically say, I want to listen to this audiobook or I want to read this ebook, and they would go physical book versus ebook, but they very rarely switch from, oh, if it's not available as a
Right.
audio, I'll go e, or if it's not an e. I have not observed that. I don't know, Kelly, if you ever.
Because the physical equivalent to a book would be like a book on CD or a playaway, and there is definitely not a preference for those physical materials, whereas a lot of folks would prefer a physical book still to read.
Interesting.
Yeah, but if that isn't available and the ebook is, or vice versa, I see people being like, oh, well, yeah, I can check out the ebook, or, oh, yeah, I'll come in and get the book.
Cool.
An audiobook has its own
Yeah.
supporters in terms of who's reading it and who's the author, and
Yeah.
so it's
Narrator,
not
yeah.
a substitute, it's really a
Yeah.
category unto
If
itself.
I'm doing an audiobook, I like to have a physical book as well, because there's certain times a day, like if I'm reading at night,
Do
I don't want to
you,
listen.
do you go in between? Can you, like,
Yeah.
wow, Maura,
I mean, it's,
that's
it's a
impressive.
pain, like I waste a lot of time finding my spot.
Oh, okay, okay.
But yes, yeah, because I'll
Yeah.
read the actual book at certain points, but then I like to have the audiobook for
This
when I'm
is,
driving and
this
stuff,
is
so.
unique. That's
Like the
fascinating.
library trustee personality test.
I know, right? Like, what kind of books do you read? How do you read them? My sister,
And I have
since-
yet to ever
yeah.
read an ebook, so I've never read a book on a device.
And that's okay,
Yeah.
because you get to choose what you like.
Exactly.
I'm going to push you into ebooks. You'll like it. I'm going to get you a Kindle.
Do you
I don't like that my book loses its charge then. I use ebooks a lot, but like if I forget to charge the Kindle, then I'm like, now what?
It's when you turn to your phone.
And it lasts so long. You can put so many books on. And then you can turn off the Wi-Fi and you have it all summer.
Which we do not recommend or endorse, just turning off the Wi-Fi and keeping all summer.
Who would do that?
No one.
So, any other questions or discussion items about the IPLAR?
Or your reading habits.
Or your reading habits, right? Yeah.
Just to say, I'm glad that the data consulting has worked out in a way that's made this so streamlined, because I remember like a year ago going through, that's like one of the first things when I sat on this board that
Yeah,
we went
oh,
through. And so I'm really glad that it's working out.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the Illinois Public Library Annual Report for fiscal year 20?
Oh,
What?
it's fiscal year 26. I wrote this in wrong.
Good thing I didn't say. it.
Yeah.
For fiscal year 26 as presented?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Barbara. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, congratulations on your IPLAR.
Thank you. I am very excited about it.
So much enthusiasm for the IPLAR. We love it. Okay. We are not having closed session tonight. Our agenda building for our July meeting includes the master plan project update in perpetuity, quarterly strategic plan check-in, and we may have Janelle come in and do a presentation on our volunteer program,
Yeah.
which would be great.
It will either be next month or September.
Okay. Anything else for the July agenda? Anything else for the good of the cause before we adjourn?
I thought for sure someone would suggest for agenda building for next month that we have a discussion on reading habits of all the trustees.
Everybody bring a book.
Everyone bring a book to share.
Independent reading time.
Yeah.
Then we will adjourn at 8:00 p.m. Thank you, everybody.